Axios reports that the United States, Ukraine, and Europe will meet in Britain before the Trump-Putin summit. Senior officials from the United States, Ukraine, and several European countries are planning to meet this weekend in the United Kingdom to try to reach a common position ahead of a planned meeting between Trump and dictator Putin. Axios writes about this, citing its sources. They explained that such a meeting was planned because Ukraine and several NATO allies fear that Trump may agree to the Russian president's proposals to end the war without taking their position into account. The idea for the meeting in the UK came up during a conference call between representatives of the US, Ukraine, and Europe. The list of participants in this meeting is still being discussed. Axios recalled that the special envoy of the President of the US, Steve Witkoff, met with Putin in Moscow. According to the publication's source, during this meeting, the Russian dictator agreed to end the war if Ukraine gives Russia Luhansk and Donetsk regions, which the Russian occupiers mostly captured after a full-scale invasion, as well as Crimea. The Institute for the Study of War reports that Ukraine will lose the belt of fortresses that held Russia back if it withdraws from Donetsk region. According to analysts, this decision will give the Russian army an extremely favorable position to resume attacks on more favorable terms, avoiding a long struggle for territory. Ukraine's belt of fortresses has been the main obstacle to the Kremlin's territorial ambitions in Ukraine for the past 11 years. It consists of 4 large cities and several towns and villages stretching from north to south along the H20 highway, Kostiantynivka, Slovyansk, with a total population of over 380,000 people. The line is almost 50 kilometers long, and Slovyansk and Kramatorsk form the northern half of the defense belt and serve as important logistical centers for Ukrainian defenders fighting in the Donetsk region. Drushkivka, Olekseyevo-Drushkivka, and Kostiantynivka form the southern part of the belt. Ukrainian forces began building defensive positions in and around these towns after recapturing them from pro-Russian forces that captured Slovyansk, Kramatorsk, Drushkivka, and Kostiantynivka in April 2014. Ukrainian troops have been in control of these cities since July 2014. Over the past 11 years, Ukraine has invested time, money, and effort to strengthen this defense belt and build significant defense infrastructure in and around these cities. The Institute for the Study of War believes that the Russian army is likely to violate any future truce and resume military aggression against Ukraine if the agreement does not contain reliable monitoring mechanisms and security guarantees for our country. If we talk about these areas mentioned by the Institute for the Study of War, we can really call it a horseshoe: Slovyansk, Kramatorsk, Drushkivka, and Kostiantynivka. And these are large, powerful agglomerations, and in 2014 Gherkin Strelkov was driven out of Slovyansk. You can see these 4 settlements. The Russians are now trying to put pressure on Lyman, which is the northernmost to the enemy position on this map, and also on Siversk. These are frontal attacks on Slovyansk. These are the largest cities not occupied in the Donetsk sector. And based on them, according to the Institute for the Study of War, Ukraine is losing defensive redoubts, and the Russians are gaining much better positions to continue their offensive. If you think that these agreements that are being proposed, that will be discussed in Alaska, that Trump will decide something with Putin without Ukraine, that Putin will stop there, this is absolutely nonsense, this is absolutely hogwash, there is no need to even talk about it. I'll just remind you that just recently Putin said, if I'm not mistaken, it was June 18 to 21 at the International Economic Forum in St. Petersburg, wherever a Russian soldier sets foot, that will be Russia. This is the approach of Imperial Russia and Putin. Therefore, there is absolutely no point in trusting or negotiating anything. If we can say anything, it is through our partners, through intermediaries, with clear guarantees of how certain agreements will be monitored and controlled. Of course, agreements that will be acceptable to Ukraine and Ukrainians. Volodymyr Zelensky said that the constitution clearly spells out everything.